Here we go. All right. Boker Tov. I will reserve and leave out all the political and opinions and all that right now because we will be here a long time, and I have a Zoom call at 10, exactly 10. So I can't spend the time on that because we'll be here till 10 tonight. We're going to read Mishne. We're in chapter 3, Mishne 3, and it's. Let me just go again. I'm going to reread it. We've done it already a couple times. It's Rabbi Shimon Omer. That's what we're on. Now, it might be 4 in yours because our scroll and a couple others also divided up differently. Okay, so it's either 3, it's chapter 3, either Mishnah 3 or 4. Okay, you have 3?
Yeah.
You have 4. Okay, I have 3. So I'm going to reread the Mishnah because they have a bunch of things to talk about. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Now, who is Rabbi Shimon? In this case, it says, Gemara says, any time that the Mishnah just says Rabbi Shimon, it's the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Yes, just plain, what they call Stam Rabbi Shimon. He wasn't Stam, right? Let's say Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir. So, for example, if you don't have an opinion in a Mishnah, it's generally speaking, it was Rabbi Meir's opinion. But when it says Rabbi Shimon, it means Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, also known as the Rashbi. He said this: 3 people that ate together at a table. They didn't say any words of Torah. It's as if they ate from the sacrifices of the dead. We have to understand this is a pretty strong statement. 2 guys sit down, eat, 3 guys sit down, eat piece of, have some pizza, and what they didn't say, go into what the Marsha say in Daf Yomi today, like what it's eating like sacrifices to the dead, and what kind of comparison is that, anyways? It says, because all the tables were filled with excrement, belimakom, with no place, which in this case means without Hashem. Aval, but 3 people that ate together. And they did say divrei Torah. It's as if they ate from the table of God Himself. For it says, and he spoke to me. Okay, so we obviously have a number of things we need to discuss here. The first of which is one that you may have heard some about, but I'm going to go a little bit more into depth. And that has to do with the idea that a person's shulchan, the person's table, is like a mizbeach. And in addition to that, it also says that a shulchan, the person's table, is mechaper. It acts as an atonement for him. So what's that all about? So I'm going to read something to you. This is a commentary on page in Gemara Menachot, Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph. You don't have it in front of you, about this topic of what does it mean that the table upon which you eat acts as a form of kapara. Now, if you remember, and you were in Tanya or you learned Tanya, you know that he discusses this as well. We're going to talk a little bit about it in a little while also, but right now I'm just going to read this commentary to you. First is the Gemara. Gemara quotes a pasuk. Hamizbeach etz shalosh amot. This is now Yechezkel. The end of Yechezkel, he has the vision of the future Beit HaMikdash. By the way, I've learned some Yechezkel until I did Project 929. I went through all Yechezkel. I never went through all Yechezkel, so I didn't even realize that this whole thing at the end of Yechezkel was there. Sorry, until like a year ago. So hello, big shot over here. So it has this whole vision of the future Beit HaMikdash, and he says as follows: Hamizbeach etz shalosh amot gavua. The mizbeach was of wood, 3 amot high. And Hashem spoke to me and said, Zeh shulchan asher lifnei Hashem. This is the pasuk that's quoted right now in this Mishnah. It's also the quote from the Gemara in Menachot. What does that mean? Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, the Amri Travayu, both Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar said it means Bizman shebeit hamikdash kayam, when the Beit Hamikdash stood, mizbeach mechaper al adam. The person did something, and they brought a korban, and then the mizbeach acted as the atonement by bringing the korban, which of course meant they also had to do tshuva, and it meant that they had to recognize that the blood and the fat, that should have been them. And now, meaning now that we don't have shein Beit Hamikdash kayam, now that we don't have Beit Hamikdash, shulchano shel adam mechaper alav, that the table, a person's table, acts as atonement for him. So here's the commentary from a website it's a very well visited website on Daf Yomi. It says as follows: Ketzad shulchano shel adam mechaper alav. How does that work? I mean, it's nice to say, but what's the mechanism here? Does he get a mitzvah for eating? Yes, there are times when we do have mitzvot. When we eat like an Erev Tisha, Erev Yom Kippur, it's a mitzvah. To eat on Purim, it's a mitzvah. But in general, it's not a mitzvah to eat, it's a mitzvah to stay healthy. Nishmartem me'od. You have to be exceedingly careful with your health. You are not allowed to cause yourself bodily harm by not eating. Okay. Therefore, Rashi explained, what does it mean? Rashi is a very straightforward example, and he says that the way a person's table acts as an atonement for him is because you also have a poor person and you give food either at your table or from your table to the poor. And that's already a form of chesed, acts as kapara. The Rabbeinu Gershom also said, he said the same thing Rashi said in a similar vein, that just bringing guests into your home. Oh, sorry, 1 second. We're learning today, Avictor Chayav Ben Meir Tzvi Baruch Aleah. Sorry. Okay. And there's cookies on the table. You're all welcome to take. See, I'm a good host. Definitely not. And Rashi says again in the Sachet Chagiga, he also says it's Hachnasot Orchi. That's tzedakah. But still, it doesn't explain what's the connection. Like if you say to me that every time you give coin and tzedakah, there's a form of kapara for you as well. Okay, what does it have to do with your table, your shulchan? So explains, he quotes the Gemara Masechet Brachot. V'amar Rav Yehuda, Shlosha Dvarim, Hamarich Bahem Marichim Yamav Shnotav Shel Adam. 3 things on which a person's life is extended. B'tfilato, Hamarich B'tfilato. I read it wrong. 3 things that if you do them and you increase them, you lengthen them, they increase your days. That makes more sense. Hamarich b'tfilato, someone who takes time davening, that doesn't rush through it. Humarich al shulchano, someone who increases his table. What does that mean? So the Gemara explains, Dilma ati aniya vehavle. Maybe an ani, poor person, will come to you and you give him something. Yichtiva mizbeach et shalosh, yichtiva deber elav al shulchan, etc., etc. So it says, he starts with the word mizbeach et shalosh amot gavoa. The mizbeach was wooden and made 3 cubits high. And then it says at the end of the pasuk, by daber elai shulchan asher lifnei Hashem. This is the table before God. Gemara says, patach b'mizbeach. The pasuk starts with the word mizbeach, the siyam shulchan, and then it refers to the end of the pasuk with the word shulchan. Why? Yochanan Rabbi Elazar Dami Tarvayu. As long as the Beit HaMikdash stood, mizbeach mechaper al Yisrael. The table, the person at his table is able to find kapara. And now it's based on from mizbeach. Now it's based on this table. Now, again, it still doesn't really tell us how this works. It's telling us very nicely that there's a comparison made by the Gemara, because the pasuk used the word mizbeach and uses the word shulchan together. So somehow the mechanism of the mizbeach at Beit HaMikdash time and the mechanism of nasat orchim or giving leftover food to aniyim somehow acts as a kapara. Something still doesn't completely add up, and we're going to see soon about that. We'll see soon, not yet. I want to keep you on your toes. Be patient, be patient. Okay, but I'm going to ask a couple other questions first. What's the difference between this Mishnah and the one that came before it? If you look at before it, it says, let's go back and I close the book, of course. Mishnah Bet or whatever, long Mishnah Aleph. It said that Shnaim sheyoshvim bein beinehem divrei Torah. 2 people are sitting around and don't say any words of Torah. It's a moshav leitzim. But we talked about what does that mean to be sitting in a moshav leitzim. How is that different than there's similar ideas that you have to be doing something constructive with your time, but still something. Is there a connection? So this is the previous Mishnah explains the greatness and importance of Torah. That is critical. When you're hanging out with somebody, you're just talking. Put some words of Torah in. It's important. This Mishnah explains the hashpa'ah, the influence Torah has on our lives and how it has an influence on each other. How so? we have two main concepts. We have a lot of things in Judaism that have two. We have guf and neshama, body and the soul. It's like almost lahavdil yin yang, but it's not. There's klipa, there's the sitra achra and the sitra the kedusha, the whatever. Not going to get to it now. We have hot and cold, black and white. Obviously, there are many things within Judaism that have two sides. We also have ruchani and gashmi, spiritual and physical. We cannot live without both of them. We need the spiritual, we need the neshama to be alive, and the person can live but die without being involved in gashmiut. Gashmiut or gashmius is not a bad thing. It's got a bad rep in the way it's used. Oh, he's so gashmi, right? But when a person builds this $1 billion house and has 14 cars and goes into hock up his eyeballs because his next door neighbor made a wedding that the flowers cost $75,000, yeah, that's gashmis. But we need gashmi. By the way, the shorish is geshem, because the ultimate gashmi is the rain, which gives us water, because without water, we can't live. So the ultimate gashmi would be food, right? Because we can live in theory without a big house, right? We can live in theory with a small tent. We can live with some form of protection. We can live but without any sustenance. God forbid someone should have sustenance not through the mouth, but we still need sustenance to live. And that's gashmi, that's physical. So what happens is, and I'm going to get more into this in a little while, we saw this also in the Siyat Sharim, and we see this in a few places, that you, by bringing Torah to the table, you elevate that which is gashmi, the food, to a level ruchani, to spirituality. What we did see back in the Siyat Sharim is when someone wants, for example, to exercise. You want to go and play basketball, you want to run, you want to swim, whatever it might be. If it's just because you want to look like an Adonis, what was the guy's name on the beach who kicked sand in his face? Armstrong? No. What was the? No, Jacqueline did the exercise stuff, but he's like the 98-pound weakling. What was that? Oh my gosh, it wasn't him. I don't think so. No. Right. Yes. I don't remember. Okay, but in any case, if you're doing it because
I didn't hear. Was it Billy somebody?
Say that again.
Was it Billy somebody?
No. It'll come to me. Okay. I think it wasn't Jack Armstrong, was it? No. Okay, it'll come to me. That's fine. In any case, so if you're doing it, what happens is that you're really at that point you're Hellenizing yourself. What was that? What does that mean? The whole story of the Mityavnim, part of it was the Greek philosophy of the body, and if that's why you're doing it, that's not a very good. It might be a motivator, but it's not the right motivator. Right motivator is because you want to be healthy, and you want to be healthy so you can do mitzvot.
That's why we have the fundraising component to the marathon.
That's why there's the fundraising component to the marathon. That's exactly right. Right.
I felt like
yes. It's fantastic. It's exactly right. Jack LaLanne. So someone else here said Jack LaLanne. Not sure. I'll have to look it up. Huh? Charles Atlas. There we go. Thank you. Charles Atlas, everybody. ChatGPT. I'm just going to change my name. My name is now Chaim Atlas. And just don't kick sand in my face. Charles Atlas. I knew it did. Okay, that was okay. Very good. So what we do is that the Torah also has hashpa'ah. The first Mishne is Torah is critical. Number one, priority. Number two is what is the hashpa'ah? Can change that which is physical to something spiritual. And we're going to, even in a broader sense, we'll see that also. It's teaching us a principle in this Mishnah. There's nothing too small or too big that's gashmi, that's physical, that can't somehow be raised to a higher level of spirituality. This is very similar. You see this in a few places, but you see it extensively in Tanya. The word sitra achra, which just means the other side, gets a bad rep. People think it means the devil. Like it says, it's the sitra achra. It's not what it means, at least not in the world of Tanya. There it means something that's not kedusha. What's the difference? What's the basic definition? That which brings you closer to godliness is kedusha. That which doesn't is sitra achra, the other side. But for the most part, most things in the world, not everything, but the vast majority of things in this world that are sitra achra, in quotes, have the potential to become kadosh, right? Give you an example, a rock is nothing, right? But if I take enough rocks and I put it into cement and I build a house and I bring Torah, whatever it is, I can build in the time Beit Mikdash, I build a mizbeach, or actually between the time, the first and second Beit Mikdash. there was what's called bamot. People had their own private altar in their backyard. They were allowed to have it. It was called heter bamot. So once they built the first Beit HaMikdash, it was asur, it was destroyed during the time period till the second Beit HaMikdash. The person could have his own private bama or mizbach, and then after that, forever. It was never permitted again. And it's a good thing, because it can just picture, you go to Mishra Adumim and they have, you're put together, go to IKEA. You go to IKEA, get your stones, and you come home, you build your mizbeach. A grill. Now we use the grill, right? Exactly. But so the mission is really teaching us that we can, in somehow, some way, connect always something gashmi to something ruchani. There's another connection. A person could look at that first Mishnah and say, two people sit and don't talk Torah, then it's like that's the Moshav Leitzim. And they may say, like, what do you want from my life? What do you want from me? Do you want me, what, I'm supposed to be learning all the time? All doing Torah? I mean, I need to eat, I need to sleep, I need to exercise. As long as the next Mishnah says, yes, you do. And you can do the same thing. Bring a Torah aspect into it. Doesn't mean when you're sitting, if you are on the treadmill and you have a sefer in front of you, watching or listening to a shiur, great. But if you're sitting eating pizza with some friends, say the Torah, do something. What constitutes divrei Torah? We'll see in a second. We'll just hang on to that one. I know I'm leaving a lot of things hanging here on purpose. So this Mishnah is also coming to tell us that we have to understand something else that's brought in a different Mishnah. Lo alecha hamlacha likmor, ve'enata bateli, enata, what's the word? Enat? Ben choin li batel bimena. Thank you. You don't have to finish the job, but you're not free from saying, not my job. There's no my job. You can't do that. It doesn't work. Okay? So you can always use Torah to infuse something gashmi to something ruchani. I want to go a little bit into Tanya, because it fits right into here, and something we did many, many months ago, maybe more than that. There's a statement we've seen many times. It says Talmud Torah keneged kulam, right? That they're all kind of mitzvot, all kind of thing, but Talmud Torah is equal to all of them, or is maybe even supersedes all the other mitzvot. The question is why? Tanya discusses this, and it fits in right here. That's why I'm mentioning that. He goes, the Alter Rebbe, the Admar Zaken goes into this very long discourse about this topic. And he says, what happens when you do a mitzvah? So let's say I take a lulav. I take a lulav, I shake it. I did a mitzvah with my body. I've elevated this palm branch, obviously, into something holy, at least for that moment. I did a mitzvah. Sagarnu. That's it. We finished, we closed the door. I finished the mitzvah. I've created maybe extra good stuff from my, in my bank of mitzvot. Very good. But to me, did it change me? Maybe, maybe not. But what happens when I learn Torah? When I learn Torah, the words, the thoughts penetrate my mind. They become a part of me, literally. How do I know that? I mean that literally. When I think in my mind, or say, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. There's nothing here physical. It's all in here. It's in my mind. It's in your head. You know these things. You know brachot, tefillah, whatever it is, it's in your mind. It becomes a part of you. So too, the only thing that we have like that in this world is food and drink. When we eat and drink, it physically becomes a part of you. When you read, the book doesn't become a part of you. When you walk, the exercise it may affect your body, but it doesn't become a part of you. Food literally becomes blood and muscle and fat and whatever else it's supposed to give to us. So he makes this connection between Torah and the idea of food, that they become and affect us in the sense that it changes us physically and spiritually. And both are intake, that's correct. And both actually there's output also, right? And right, eventually. Yeah, especially in Torah, they're better too. What's that? Otherwise, it's very unhealthy, right? So there's another connection to the idea of why is a person's table mechaper, making brachot, saying divrei Torah, and again, I'll see in a second shortly what that means, and that affects us. It has an absolute physical effect and spiritual effect. Now, the spiritual part becomes part of us, and the physical aspect becomes a part of us, and therefore there's a connection between the spiritual idea of the mizbeach and the spirit and the physical connection of eating the food. Question also is, it says shlosha she'achlu, 3 people that ate at a table. Why 3? Now, if it's 1, was it? A mezuman. Okay, very good. That's the absolute logical answer. We're going to say that's right, and there's more than that. No, there's no about. There's benosaf, which is as follows. 3 women can make a mezuman. Absolutely, mezumenet. Yeah. It says a 3-stranded thread. Now you just say will not quickly come apart. Right.
More stable.
Right. It's more stable. Unlike me. So why 3? Right. Okay. So we're going to talk about that for a couple of minutes. The obvious, I guess, straight answer is mizuman. You have mizuman of 3 men plus or 3 women plus. By the way, people I've heard wrongly stated, "Oh, women make mizumenet or mizuan. That's just be feminist." No, it's a halacha and shulchan aruch. It's black and white. Black and white. Now, the whole idea of women and men making mizuan together, as far as like there's 2 men and 1 woman, or 1 man and 2 women, that's not halachically okay. And I can't say it is. Where there is an interesting halacha that people are unaware of. By the way, if you grew up and lived in the United States or many other countries, you'll be absolutely unaware of this because it never applied for the most part, but here it applies a lot. What happens, I may have mentioned this somewhere along the way, as Ashkenazim, you are at someone's house for Shabbat, at a meal. You have a child, your own child, who is 9 years old, 10 years old. And the Balabait, they're Sfaradim, and they have 2 sons that are 18, they're over 13. So you have 2 kids, I would say the father and 1 son who are mitzvah, and you have a son who's there who's 9, 10 years old. By Sfaradim, you can already make a mizum. Allah, you make a mizum, does not have to be, the 3rd person does not have to be over bar mitzvah. It has to be someone that already knows what Hashem is and means what it means to daven, it means to say brachot. He can already be mitzvah in the house of the Sfaradim. They come here and they have a father and they have a son sitting here. And they bring along a Sephardi family brings 1 son who's 10 years old. They cannot make it because it's the rules of the house. Same thing is true when it comes to by Teimanim. On Shabbat, they will take cold soup, put it on the plata, and heat it up. Regular plain soup. If you go to a Teimani house, the simcha, have your fill, whatever you want. They cannot come in your house and we have Teimani here, heat up everything we want. It doesn't work that way. Okay, it's like my house, my rules is really what that is. Okay, so why 3? And there's 2 questions we have to answer, really. Why 3? Oh, I never thought about that. Is there relationship to a Beit Din at all? Well, if you want to replicate the concept of the Mizbeach, which was Beit HaMikdash, which had the Sanhedrin and the Lishkat HaGazit, I can see where that could go. Maybe. I didn't have they have 12 because of our 12 Shvatim, by the way. Yeah. I was an adult before I realized that, by the way. Well, I realized a lot of things too late in life. Lord, maybe just in time, before they got me. Anyway, so 2 questions. One is why 3, and number 2 question is what constitutes divrei? It says what does it mean divrei Torah? So let's go with the first question. I'm going to read something to you from that Rav Lau quotes from the Al-Shich, Moshe Al-Shich. This is right. Yisrael Mer Lau. Oh, that's right. I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I had bought a book of Rav Lau's commentary on Pirke Avot about 2 years ago. So I knew I'd be learning Pirke Avot at some point or teaching it, so I bought it until I realized when I opened it to start using it in Perek Aleph, he starts in Perek Gimel because Aleph and Bet were in a different volume. So I'm just now starting to use his stuff. So he says like this: Masbir Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah explains, Ki kevan sheshlosha nikraim chabura. 3 people are considered a group, such as to require, like you said, a zimun, so you're mechavein to the Rabbeinu Yonah. Mishum kach gedola yoter chobatam kasher im enam mimalim et chobatam v'shulchanam hofech lemakom zichrei metim. So it makes it worse. He says, yes, in a sense, his implication is whether you're 2 people or 3 people, yes, you should, of course, you have Torah. But once you have 3, and there has that's some chashivut, some importance to that size of a group, because they have a requirement if they ate bread to bench together to make a mizman, that makes it even worse that they don't say any type of Dvar Torah, and that is turns their table into zivchei metim. Mosif al kach hachasid Yavitz. The Yavitz adds to this. That the requirement of 3 people sitting together is greater than 2. Because the more people you have sitting together, the more prominence, the more importance, the more elevation there is to their actions. Therefore, their punishment, in quotes, is worse. If they did a chilul Hashem by not having any Torah, that's even worse. So here's how I can sort of explain what he's saying in this. Okay, if I take a piece of paper and I go like this, right, it makes almost no noise, right? I go, right? So we know that people, the more people there are, we know the concept of Rovam Hadat Melech, the greater glory to God, the more people there are, or king, the more people there are. So the fact that you have one person, 2 people, it doesn't make necessarily a chashuv gathering. If you have, imagine though, you have a banquet. For those of you who remember going to dinners for schools and organizations and shuls, Baruch Shep Torani, thank God. Imagine you have 300-400 people sitting there. There's not a word of Torah spoken. Compare that to 2 guys sitting eating pizza. They not, yeah, in both cases they should have said something, but you have 300-400 people sitting. Don't say one word of Torah, nothing. So in other words, it's also psychological, is what the Avot is saying. The more people there are together, it says 3 becomes something chashuva chabura because of also zimun, and also has the importance of like, come on. Now, mineged, gam be'pan hachiyuvi, but there's also a positive perspective here. Kocham shel shosha mikocham shel shnayim. The power of 3 is greater than the power of 2. Alo kadva mishnah ki shulchan shenemru alav divrei Torah domeh lemizbeach. First of all, the Mishnah said that a table upon which 3 people are sitting, and they did say Torah, is like a mizbeach. And when what you eat is like eating a korban, a sacrifice. He gives an additional reason, Rav Lau. When you brought a korban in Beit HaMikdash, there were a minimum of 3 people involved. How come? Well, there was the Kohen who did the work, the Levi who stood there, whether he was singing or whatever his job was. And the Yisrael Ma'amadot. Ma'amadot were various things that the Israeli had to do. So it was a minimum of 3 individuals that were involved with every single korban. And therefore, if this is like a korban, then if you really want to get the benefit, be like that. Therefore, when is a person's table really like a mizbeach? When they say divrei Torah at the table, 3 of them, to inholify them, that's no such word, to make themselves holy, and to bring holiness to the location and to the food. Yes. No, they don't. I'm just as long as there's something that is said, correct. Let me see if this is the 3rd. I am right now. Yes. You see if this is it. Okay.
You know, there have been studies done.
Yeah.
That families that eat at least one meal together have better adjustment. The kids
So I will tell you that not only was I aware that there is such a study that the more you eat as a family together, the influence it has, both in terms of all kinds, especially in kids not doing the right thing in their life. That was why that when I became the Rav of the Shul 1,000 years ago, Baruch Hashem, I wrote down 2 promises to myself, 2 or 3. I literally wrote them down. I still have them. And one was that we were going to do as many times as possible. We ate vast majority of our meals at night, like dinner, together as a family. I would say upwards of 90%. I tried to not make meetings during that time period, and that. So I also wrote that if I ever sacrifice my family, so to speak, for the community, I'm out. So every once in a while, I would ask my kids when they were little, am I spending enough time with you? They go, Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Baruch Hashem. So, what constitutes the Dvar Torah? So, let's think logically for a second. You said before that there are, three is important because it's Zimu, which is right. What do they have to do when there's a Zimu? They have to bench. If that Birkat Hamazon or Bracha Chona, there's not bread eaten. According to Rashi and a couple other individuals, that is the Dvar Torah itself. In other words, he says that counts as the Dvar Torah. Now, you're giving me a look which is good. Like, what? What? So the others who say the same thing you just did with your face are we talking about Amaratzi? Are we talking about boors who don't know that they have to bench? We're talking about normative religious Jews. And many people disagree with Rashi. There's only one other, I think it was Rabbeinu Yonah also. I don't remember, I wrote it down somewhere, that disagree. So what does it mean to say Dvar Torah? So, that's interesting that counts as the Dvar Torah. In theory, it could. I could see that. There are questions about Sur Mishalo Achalu. Some people say you shouldn't sing it because it actually has a tamtzit. How do you say that? Concentration of the benching. Some say you may have already been yotzei, although that's not the accepted opinion, but there are opinions like that, believe it or not. Just you should know. But so most disagree with Rashi, and they say, what is the Dvar Torah? Anything. You could say, I said this when we were Shalavim, we all had to say Dvar Torah every meal. Every meal, one of the guys at the table had to say something. And if someone didn't prepare, and it was always like a minute or two. But if someone didn't prepare, I forgot. They say, Shlosha Shalach, they would just quote the Mishne. And that's fine. You brought Torah to the table. The main point is that even at the time of something gashmi, something physical, to bring the ruchani aspect, to bring the spiritual aspect into it. Why zivchei metim? Why is it that they are considered as having eaten from a table of the sacrifices of the dead? It doesn't say to the dead. Zivchei metim, sacrifices of the dead. So one opinion is it is sacrifices to Avodah Zarah. Now, God forbid to say, if I sat down with all of you to eat a meal right now, we didn't say any Torah, that we just brought a sacrifice to Avodah Zarah. It's not what it means literally. Just like when it says, Kol koes, whoever gets angry, it's as if he worshipped an idol. It doesn't mean that in the literal sense. It means he's out of his mind. He has no shlita, has no control, just like you wouldn't have control if they had to bow down to an idol at that very second. Again, it doesn't mean that you brought a sacrifice, God forbid, to Avodah Zarah. But it's there to give the weight of you lost an opportunity to bring some Torah, to bring something proper to your table, and you didn't do it. Might as well go on to the other side of the other team.
That's why the more people that are there.
Yes. The bigger problem it is. That's exactly what the point was before, that the more people are there, the worse the problem, in quotes, becomes. It is absolutely incremental. Again, 3 people sitting there, they didn't say something, it's not right, but okay. 500 people, no single word of Torah, ain't gonna happen on my watch. That's right. So why zivchei metim? Why sacrifices of the dead? So there are a couple implications. Main one being that just like the dead can't do anything to help a person, so too Avodah Zarah can't do anything to help a person. That's one possibility. There are a couple others that I didn't really particularly care for, so I didn't quote them, bring them in here. But I want to read to you again one more brief paragraph from Rav Lau about what he says about this idea of ki'ilu achlu mizivchei metim. He says like this: Hatana mishaveh et sudatam lekfira beikar. He says that the Tana, he's very strong on this. He says that the Tana, the author of this Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, compares, equates is a better word, equates this type of meal where there was no Dvar Torah to absolute kfira, rejection of God. L'avodah zarah. He equates it to avodah zarah. Elu anashim shekiblu et bezonam miborei olam ve'inam makirim lo Torah. You got your food from God, and you don't want to at least say thank you. You don't want to be acknowledge that. Hem einam maskirim oto af lo b'milah achat. Nothing? Seriously? You learn from as a little kid. What do you say? Thank you. Right? There's a book I'm sure you've heard of, seen. Everything I ever needed to know, I learned in kindergarten. And it's a great book. It's true. All the how you're supposed to act and what you're supposed to do, it's basic, but it's really true. The fact that they have no Torah, no acknowledgement, no anything, is in fact saying that we reject the idea that all this food is a chesed. That by the fact you don't include God at your table. Now, would someone say that making brachot count? I doubt it, because even though you need to make brachot, that's not something unique to sitting down to eat. It could be walking down the street eating potato chips, you make a bracha. It's not the same as sit. It says that the yoshvim. But they're basically saying that they're giving testimony. My food, my parnasa, my income, my sustenance, God has nothing to do with that. There's nothing to do with that. But we're not including it. In light of this explanation. So how, he's quoting Rashi, how is it that Birkat Hamazon or Ala Michya, how does that actually elevate it so that it is no longer considered eating Zivchei Metim? When he benches, he says Birkat Hamazon, and he is recognizing the goodness God has bestowed upon him. So no longer is that eating seen as rejection of God. Adrabah, just the opposite. He's admitting that there is a being, a creator who is giving him sustenance. That's why he says the phraseology that he uses in the Mishne according to Rav Lau. Two psukim I want to quote. One of them for sure, one of them maybe less so. And by the way, the words are pronounced ve'achalta, ve'savata, uve'rachta. The accent is on the last syllable in the first and third word, and then the first syllable in the middle word. Ve'achalta, and you will eat. Ve'savata, and you will be satiated. Uve'rachta, not uve'rachta. It's not ve'achalta. It's not ve'ahavta Hashem Elokecha. I told you this 1,000 times. You said so I'm blue in the face. Ve'ahavta. Okay, so keep that in mind. In any case, so it says ve'achalta ve'savatu ve'rachta Hashem Elokecha. What happens? You eat, you'll be satiated, and you'll give bracha, you'll give blessing and thanks to Hashem. The other pasuk, ve'achal ve'sava v'dashen ufana el Elohim acherim va'avadu. This pasuk is a different pasuk in the Tochacha. Mm-hmm. You're going to eat, you'll be full, and you're like I'm stuffed. I'm what's the expression? Because it fits here. Happier than a pig in a poke, right? What do I need anything else for? It begins here. Why you don't like that one? Because then you'll serve foreign gods. What was it? So it's not just that the actual eating that you recognize Hashem's presence through Dvar Torah, through benching and all, but even in the acquisition of food, even the fact that you have the ability to open up your pantry and have some food in there, that alone, which we of course know is the bracha from Hashem, and we still have to daven 3 times a day for it. And when we, not us, but when people lose sight of that, they're eating at the Shulchan Zivchei Metim. When they don't, and they infuse it with something, whether it's Birkat Hamazon, you can rely on Rashi, by the way, 100%. The Birkat Hamazon counts. If you decide you want to say, look, when I eat with my wife, we eat lunch 95% of the time together and supper almost 100%. Do we sit there and see, by the way, I got to tell you, Mechilt I saw today. No, I don't do that. Okay. We try to say something, of course, benching or something. Completely disregarding it, that's not a possibility. That can't happen. So, okay. Next, let me just see one thing. Look at the calendar, just double check one thing before I shoot my mouth off. Next week, Thursday. Yeah, Bezrat Hashem. I know there's a Thursday coming up that I can't, but Bezrat Hashem. Yes.
What about one person?
Okay, so what does one person do? So there's only one area that we know of that I can tell you offhand where there is a requirement for one person to do something, and that's Leil HaSeder. That even a person sitting by himself, he still has to do the question and answers of the Seder. But other than that, when a person is sitting by himself, I will tell you honestly, very often, like when I'm eating breakfast or something, I'm learning almost always. So that's great. Not me. I'm not saying, oh, he's great. I didn't mean it like that. Wow, look what I did. I don't mean it like that. I'm saying is that it is by sitting by yourself, it doesn't, I haven't seen, I actually thought about that. I haven't seen somewhere it does say, afilu echad in the next Mishnah. Take a quick look. Next Mishnah says, or the prior Mishnah. This is, they have to do with the Shechina. It did not have to do with saying the right. That's the prior Mishnah. But I don't see where it says that the equivalent of even one person sitting has to say a Dvar Torah to himself. I didn't see that. No. I mean, it's a good thing. Okay. Have a wonderful week, everybody. I mean, a wonderful Shabbat. I don't know what day